We watched episode 9 of House of the Dragon, so you know what time it is!
Hit that intro!
Woo!
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Alright everybody, if it's your first time joining us, welcome. We're two dads who love all things fandom, from Star Wars to Star Trek, Marvel to DC, and Middle-earth on down to Westeros. We love it all, and we want to bring all of our insights and love of all things nerdy to you, our viewers. So if that's your glass of fine Westerosi wine, then we're here for you, and you should definitely subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on all of our amazing reviews and insights that we bring to all of our favorite fandoms out there. So thanks for tuning in, guys. My name is Chris of the House Matthews, and I'm joined, as always, by my fellow man of the Night's Watch and suited up friend, Mr. Matt of the House Parham. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing great. So excited about doing this episode. I rushed straight home from work.
I know.
Couldn't wait to
Got
get
you in
all
the
that
studio.
changing and all that nonsense taken care of. So I just popped right down, right from the car.
So yeah, what are we doing? We're reviewing Game of Thrones House of the Dragon episode 9, the penultimate episode. So next week's episode is the finale. This one is called The Green Council. And as always, guys, I went ahead and looked up the Rotten Tomatoes score on this, and it got a 95%. So 95% of critics out there rated this as fresh. That's a 60 to 100 rating for these critics. There's 22 that gave it that score. And diving a little deeper like I always do, the average critic rating is a 7.8 out of 10, with only 21 rated this fresh, 1 rated it as rotten. So there we go. So that's what the critics think. Let's talk about what these two dads thought of this episode. So what'd you think, brother?
Well, it was another interesting one, and I really appreciated that the writers took this episode as just hours of these characters' lives. So right
Finally.
from when they... Yeah, exactly. I love the opening.
No huge time jump.
I love no huge time jump.
Mm-hmm.
We pretty much go right into the early morning hours where we see the little kid, and he goes and informs the lady, and then word starts to get out. And I love that they just carried us from those early moments just a few hours into the day where we finally get to see the crowning of who our next king is, and lo and behold, it's, as some might say, the usurper, Aegon, the next conqueror, second of his name.
Is he really a conqueror? Who knows? But he is wearing the conqueror's crown. And I like that, too, at the beginning of this episode. Did you find... I watched it again, too, during the day, and I found that it was really dark. Did you find it was too dark in the beginning of this episode, or were you able to see things?
You know, actually, it wasn't too bad for me. There was a lot of that courtyard-type scenery, and those had, like, torches and stuff that lit it all up, and so it definitely was no beach scene or no dragon riding by moonlight, so I wasn't too off-put by the early darkened scenes that we got.
Yeah, so it really did feel like you were in that moment too. You were living in that moment as Viserys dies. They find out and they have to get this all together, and it's the wee hours of the early morning. So they convene this Green Council, which we find out has been conniving and scheming to get Aegon on the throne already. My question too, and I posed this earlier to you, Matt, when I was talking to you, what were they going to do if Alicent didn't think that Viserys wanted Aegon on the throne, misinterpreted that from his deathbed? Right. What were they going to do in that situation?
I really don't know, and we see this happen with writing sometimes where they, things just worked out perfectly, and we get told that there was a plan all along. Like, well, if it hadn't gone that way, I can think of the episode of Rings of Power where they get the dark hilt and they put it into, the sort of base there and turn
which
it.
Made no sense.
I like we talked about in that episode, that seemed to work out perfectly for the orcs and Adar, but what if it hadn't? What was plan B?
What was plan B?
Here, it just seemed like everybody in the small council was assuming that something as great as Viserys changing his mind on his deathbed would put their plan into play. So that seemed a little off.
And, for this Green Council, it seemed like the culmination of Rhaenyra's bad decisions coming to fruition, coming to roost in this. You had Tywin Lannister there, who she spurned earlier on as a potential husband and everything. You have Alicent as well as Otto Hightower, which are put into place because Alicent, lied to her, Rhaenyra lied to her best friend Alicent and caused all this to happen and the downfall. So it feels like part of this is also Rhaenyra's fault as well, unfortunately. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. It has something to do with the pent-up rage that we see exhibited by Sir Criston yet again.
Oh, yeah. Once again, this guy gets to murder somebody right in front of everybody and no repercussions.
No repercussions at all. Just, it's confusing time, so we're going to let this guy bleed out with a rock in his face. I was thinking to myself, like, okay, so everybody's, dealing with the chaos of the moment, but what happens next? What happens to that body? What happens to, like, his family or his entire house? Like, he was an important guy.
He was. So... and they just... And I felt as an audience member, got to give it up to Graham McTavish in this, who plays the Lord Commander Sir Harold Westerling. He felt like the audience member to me. He felt like this was me in the scene. Was like, what is going on here? Like, this doesn't make any sense. He did a phenomenal performance here. I'm glad that he got a little bit of the limelight in this episode. And if you don't know who Graham McTavish is, he's been playing this role throughout House of the Dragon and has been basically in the background the whole time. But he was also in Lord of the Rings. In The Hobbit, he played Dwalin, one of the dwarves in that. So he's a really good actor. I very much like him, and I love how honorable he was in this scene, because he was like, if there's no king, then I have no purpose here, and he tore his cloak. Do you think it's a real surprise that they let him go too, right?
It was a surprise, but I kind of thought it was an interesting detail to add here, because we've been seeing this show distinguish itself in the time period it's set in Westerosi history from Game of Thrones, because of all the chivalrous acts that are going on. We definitely see the Shining Knights, or the White Knights, much more prevalent here, along with all the stuff that comes with that. In sort of the romantic era, you might say, of Westerosi history. And we see that even in the presentation, or the crowning of the king. Very ceremonial, with the swords being raised up. I thought all of that was very cool, very interesting details that they put in there that's based somewhat in historical fact. But it also is displayed in the actions of our characters, and that this noble knight, Sir Westerling, is put off by this entire conspiracy, so to speak, and won't be any part of it. I'm assuming will align his allegiances with the soon-to-be Queen Rhaenyra.
Yeah, we'll that's what I'm guessing too. Is maybe he'll go over there. I really hope he does too. And speaking of the King's Guard and everything, we got two new characters. Well, we saw one of them last episode, but we get these two new brothers, these twins, and they're actual twins too. So you got Sir Eric Cargill and Sir Auric Cargill. So it's E and A. So yeah, little confusing which one is which, but they're played by Elliot Titensor and Luke Titensor, and they're tasked by Otto Hightower.
They're actual twins.
They are
it's
actual
not like
twins.
The Lannisters. We actually get to see some authentic earth-grown twins there.
Which is interesting, too, that they would do that like for Tywin Lannister and his brother, Jason Lannister. So that's played by Jefferson Hall. He plays both roles. And Jefferson Hall is in the Green Council as well. He's the master of ships in this episode. And I found it was really cool, too, his character of Tywin Lannister, when he like got out of the way whenever whenever they're about to quarrel with Sir...
About to get in a sword fight, yeah.
Yeah, and as soon as they were done, he slides back in and sits down as well. Yep. So, very apropos. But these two twins on the Knight's Guard are tasked by Otto Hightower to go find, Aegon to be crowned as king. And basically the whole episode is a Where's Waldo of Aegon.
Well, and didn't you find that to be confusing? Like, why there was even two factions sent out by the father and the daughter? You know, why did they need to race to find him? I didn't get that. Yeah,
the whole idea, and like the showrunners tried to explain this afterwards, and I think it's not good writing. But the whole idea there was that Alicent was trying to catch up to Aegon to kind of influence him as king, and Otto kind of wanted to get his grasp on Aegon as well, so to get his claws in there. And it's amazing because Otto is basically trying to control everything and trying to get his way. Same thing with Alicent. She's trying to assert her dominance in this situation. So that's why I think each of them was trying to get to Aegon at the same time. And then there's also Mysaria, played by Sonia Mizuno, in this, who apparently has captured... I didn't get this in the episode, too. She captured Aegon and then hid him away in that mausoleum place underneath all the burning candles. What the heck was that about?
Oh, yeah, I had no idea why he's under that table. It just seems so random. Like, okay, he normally takes off and finds himself in the silk sector of town or wherever. But he just happens to leave. It just seems like they needed something else to do with this penultimate episode than lead right into what will inevitably happen. And Rhaenyra finds out, you know, Aegon's crowned king. With her, I find Alicent to be the one that's confused here, in that Viserys is probably saying things through, altered mental status, and
for sure,
thinking he was talking to Rhaenyra, and Alicent took it for what it was, or for what she thought it was. But I felt like we could have jumped off from that point in a direction that made more logical sense, and that they just crown Aegon king. I mean, as we saw in the coronation ceremony, the people of Westeros that are not of royal lineage are just sheep. They
really are. They're like,
with whatever,
okay. You know.
Yeah, and
then in Game of Thrones, they make a big deal out of King Robert, and Ned Stark writing down exactly his wishes and everything, and has to be done that way. But this is all hearsay based off of what Alicent wanted, and everyone seems to just go along with it like it's no big deal.
Yep.
And I was kind of thinking about this too a little bit more today, and I think that the reason why people are so willing to accept this is because it's the norm for the firstborn male heir to become king, and so everybody is in line with that, and they were not in line with Rhaenyra becoming queen. Having a woman on the throne is not acceptable apparently in Westeros.
Right. Yeah, I think you could make that argument very logically. That's probably why the bulk of them. It was kind of funny. It starts as sort of a slow clap, and then people get on board with cheering, and then Aegon gets the crowd going with the raising of the sword and all.
Yep.
And then we get what is traditional for Game of Thrones, our penultimate episode with
9.
all the spectacle, right?
Yep.
Episode
we get the
9.
beast beneath the boards. Helena once again is
calls it
calling the future. Just keep your ear up. Whatever Helena is saying, just listen in, and you'll be clued in for what's going to happen the next episode. Apparently.
Yeah. Right. And I thought this seemed a little off. I mean, I definitely thought it was a cool scene, her busting in there like that.
Yeah, and, Princess Rhaenys Targaryen busting in with her dragon.
Right.
And I like the idea, because if you guys didn't know, the coronation of the king there being with Aegon was the same place that they had the High Council with, where they decided who would be the next king, Viserys or Rhaenys. So she was there once again to witness another king of Westeros. And it's like, oh man, I keep thinking too, I'm like, man, they should have just gone with Rhaenys. All of this could have been avoided, but then we wouldn't have had a show as well.
Well, and I did like that little conversation that Alicent had with her, that Viserys could have been a lord living on a countryside hunting every once in a while.
Perfectly happy with that.
Exactly. Yeah, I thought that's a good
all this
point.
Avoided. Yep.
Yeah, it should have gone to her. But it didn't, and this is episode 9, so we needed some big CGI fest, and we got a few minutes of that, of the dragon busting in and laying waste to all the red shirts in the audience.
But man, I gotta say, and I think all of our us fans are in agreement on this. It could have been easily resolved if she would have just said Dracarys.
Yeah,
like
right.
Oh man, it's just so hard to see her just not do that and pass up the opportunity.
I didn't understand that part of it. It just seemed like a stern look from the motherly Alicent put her off, and I really didn't get that. I mean, I guess, I don't know. What do you think, man? It's just
once again, you see Aegon, he like creeps behind his mother and everything, and he's like all upset. Right. So it's like, once again, just showing what a terrible king this guy is going to be. It's like, wow, all this effort that Alicent is putting on her son to be king, and he's just going to be the worst out there. Kind of like a Joffrey.
You were talking about earlier how the showrunners had said, this moment was meant to show the connection between Princess Rhaenys and Alicent staring each other down, and
she didn't want to take her children away from this mother because she knows what that's like, from her family and everything. She knows that pain, and she just couldn't go through with it. I think that she probably felt like she was going to light them all up there, but had a change of heart. But at the same time, I don't know. Writing wise, I wouldn't have done that. I would have made it to where she just escapes with the dragon, didn't have that moment of facing down the Hightowers and the Greens there, and just have her leave, because it just doesn't make sense for her to pass up that moment, because it's going to cause so much anguish, and just so many people are going to die because of that decision.
Well, and also it just seems like a sort of writer's trick to have a spectacular moment for really no reason at all. I mean, if
essentially
if the showrunners just wanted to point out that she changed her mind, like you said, that could have been done easily with just a sunset shot of the dragon riding towards Dragonstone, or even if Alicent had said something, yelled out from the stage, don't, or please spare my children, something, other than just wide-eyed staring down this roaring dragon. I mean, it's a power move for sure, but I think the fans are going to be disappointed that she didn't just lay waste to everybody right then and there. Right?
Yeah, I agree. And, throughout this episode, too, you get to see more of Aemon and his character and his quality. And you can tell he really does. He would rather be king. He really does want to be king. He's like, I've studied, I've practiced, I've done all this stuff, whereas my older brother doesn't want this at all. But he still goes through with finding his brother and everything else and going through with that. But, he definitely feels like the second son that's being put to the side, even though he wants it.
Passed by, right? We just got so many different looks at the cracks in the armor of Team Hightower, or Team Green, whatever you want to call it.
And you can't say that Alicent is not complicit in this anymore. Yeah, she didn't know that they were plotting to have Aegon put on the throne, but at the same time, like, you can see how she's interacting with Sir Criston. She's like, I know how you feel about me, and she's kind of playing him now. And then the whole thing
how she plays
with Larys Strong,
Larys
with
Strong.
her feet and this disgust. It's like, we didn't need another reason to hate this guy. It's like, why?
No, it was totally unnecessary, and just like one of those sort of endings to a scene where you're like, wait, is that what just happened?
Watching it the second time too, Otto Hightower's like, you've been spending a lot of time with Queen Alicent of late, and like and then Larys is like, I can use that to your advantage too. So apparently this is some pact that they've had for quite a while. So she's apparently been doing this, showing her legs and her feet to it was so disgusting. And
we just supposed to believe like this guy's a politician. He's a crafty one, but because he has a disformed leg, he's got this creepy sexual fetish. I don't know.
I know. It's like a slam on the disabled right there.
Right?
We have
Oh my gosh. He can just be a shrewd politician, right?
Please. I mean, at least we got Bran in Game of Thrones. He eventually becomes king of Westeros and everything. Yeah. So,
and this guy's already murdered his brother and father all in the same night. Just cut people's tongues out. Like, we don't need yet another reason to despise this guy.
Exactly. So, all in all, so what did you think of this? Let's give our ratings to our viewers here. What would your rating be for this episode? Episode 9.
Yeah. I thought it was a well-paced episode. Of course, the acting's still stellar, as we have come to expect from all the people portraying these different roles, even as we get the new actors from Time Jump to Time Jump. I thought there was some just inexplicable plot moves and unnecessary characterization.
Yeah.
So all in all, I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10. What about you, brother?
7 out of 10. Yeah, and I'm right there with you, man. I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10 as well. I feel like that they could have made Aegon becoming king and being crowned. That could have taken place in the beginning of this. They could have moved really quickly and spared us the whole Where's Waldo routine of finding Aegon. We didn't really need that.
Right.
Yeah. I think that the thing that they were trying to show us in there is those twins, whenever they were in the seedy underbelly of King's Landing and finding out that children were fighting each other, and they saw one of Aegon's bastards, I guess, in the pit.
Yeah.
was setting up the idea that these brothers are like, now you see what kind of a guy this is, and kind of setting up that rift between these twins, because one of them does defect and he's going to Dragonstone, and so he's probably going to be on Team Black as it is.
Yeah. Well, now we got to figure out. Do you think it's Eric or Arik that disappeared?
Good question. It's one or the other. So I'm going to go with, like, let's put a bet on this. I'm going to say it's Eric with an E that defects. And
okay,
Arik
I guess that leaves me with Arik. Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
So once again, I'm definitely Team Black on this, just because, like, this just shows how underhanded these people are. But again, I mean, Team Black is also underhanded as well, but Viserys wanted his daughter to be queen. And once again, too, we're seeing, like, Alicent was so afraid that when Rhaenyra was instilled as queen, that she would snuff out all of them. And this is exactly what the Green Council is trying to do to Rhaenyra and her children and everything else. But it was nice that Alicent actually stood up and was like, no, Viserys wouldn't want his daughter to be killed. So I'm glad that she did that as well. So kudos to your Team Green on that, brother. But still.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess there's some redeemable qualities there, but I don't know. I was saying to you a little earlier, anymore, I'm just Team Galadriel, and these people can all go kill each other.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be interesting to see what we see, and George R.R. Martin has said that the material for the Dances of the Dragon is going to be about 4 seasons long, so we're probably going to have 4 seasons of House of the Dragon here going forward. So I am excited to see where we go with the next episode, and I can't wait to see how Rhaenyra takes this news and what happens in that episode. And it's going to be a lot of fun getting to see that. I don't know how much action we're actually going to see in the next episode. I think that they'll probably leave a lot of the action for season 2, so we'll be just biting our nails waiting. Right. So that kind of sucks. But in the meantime, guys, I'm going to catch up on Fire and Blood. I'm going to read that book for you guys. So once we get to season 2 here on Fatherly Fandom, I'll know all the stuff. I'll read all the ancillary materials as well, so that we can better serve you as an audience going forward. So 7 out of 10 for this one. Excited to see the finale. We got Andor this week that we're going to be doing. We're going to be reviewing Smile for our Spooktober episode as well. If you guys didn't catch it, we just reviewed Hereditary, and I'm still scared out of my mind over that episode. So Absolutely. Just my hair alone, right? So that episode is very scary.
And speaking of that, before we leave, I do have to offer our first retraction here on Fatherly Fandom. Please forgive me, loyal audience members. Last episode, I affectionately referred to Chris here as Ted Bundy due to the mane that's lurking just underneath the surface of that hat there. What I even referenced Will Ferrell
You did.
portraying Ted Bundy on SNL.
I didn't get it at the time. I just went with.
Yeah, thank you for the courtesy laugh.
Yeah.
I was referring, of course, to the other serial killer, Theodore Ted Kaczynski, which Chris Stoffoli's over there shares a striking resemblance.
Apparently, I look like murderers or something over here. So.
Well, just ones that would do it through the mail. You know, you don't want to go out in public looking like that.
So if you guys want to see me shave this murderer-style haircut, apparently.
Down to a clean Picard, I think is going to be perfect.
Jean Picard of the USS Enterprise.
Yeah, still a lot of Connery built in there.
Sweet.
A lot.
I know. There's a lot of Sean
Not
Connery.
much Patrick Stewart.
Moneypenny, pull my finger. So, so if you want to see that, if you want to see me shave my head or my daughter shave my head, we got to get to 100 subscribers. So if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel. We really want to get there. I think we're at 43 subscribers now. We're getting close to 50. So once we hit 50, I think we can do some more branding and other fun stuff. So thank you, everybody, for subscribing to the channel so far. But yeah, once we get to that 100, hair's getting shaved, and maybe I can put on a uniform for Captain Picard, and I think that's a great idea, or Professor X as well. So a lot of fun. So it's been fun joining you guys here tonight on Fatherly Fandom. We had a blast. Can't wait to see the finale. And from our families to yours,
have a good one.
Adios.